Bueno. What's up, everybody? This is Albert Campa, back again with the CantinaMX podcast, episode 156. Going solo for the moment, but hopefully later on we can have John Jagu back on, as well as Dan Preciado. But just to go and begin the podcast, it's been a week since we last talked, and since then there's been quite a bit of action. Already talked about over the weekend. The main piece of news was the horrific videos that we're seeing of from the fans, the Rayados fans, the Tigres fans, just before the Clásico Regio, and this is pretty bad scene. So, as you guys have probably already know, two buses, I guess, came up to each other. Fans started getting out recently in a sort of bad excuse of a letter from the Barra from Rayados came out and sort of gave a justification to their actions. They said they were trying to protect the women and children that were in their bus. So the guys came out and just sort of tried to distract or move the attack somewhere else from the Tigres, saying the Tigres instigated it. The Tigres fans started fighting, and so in the video you can see the Monterrey fans just pretty much overcoming them. Tigres were running. There was a car that apparently was trying to mow down some Tigres fans. And then towards the end, one of the Tigres fans didn't make it, didn't escape, tripped. You can see in the video tripped, and then Monterrey fans just piled on him, throwing punches. And on another video, it was shown there were rocks throwing at him while he was unconscious. He was taken, his clothes were taken off, and that's really the weird and just crazy part of it. Just think of the mindset of some guy. Usually, like when you see a fight, or if you think you're going to be in a fight, you know, you think, okay, it's going to get broken up, or someone's going to get, at worst, someone's going to get knocked out. And maybe if the guy is really upset or really undisciplined, they'll throw a cheap shot while the guy's down, maybe knocked out, just one cheap shot, and then be done with it and walk away. In this case, the guy was probably already knocked out, probably getting hits, apparently stabbed, and then his clothes ripped from his body until he was naked. Then after that, just laying there unconscious on the ground, several people, I counted two, go up to him with rocks and just point blank range, slam a rock into his body or head, whatever they were doing. And just imagine the mindset you must have to do that kind of terrible act, and then run away. Of course, one guy had identifiable tattoos and long hair, and I don't know if he's been caught, but not very bright on his part. But those particular guys that I saw in the video weren't really identifiable. And my initial thought is, okay, these guys are getting away. So just horrible incidents. A lot of people are complaining about the reaction from the clubs from the Liga MX and how they are, the game continued. It was a boring 1-0 game. Not very impressive. A lot of people, I didn't even watch it. I wasn't in the mood to watch soccer after seeing that. A lot of people said that, the clubs should punish their fans, even though this happened away from the stadium. The league should do something about it. A lot of people are upset with the way Tigres responded, with the way Monterrey responded, especially with the way the Rayados fan, La Barra, responded and pretty much passed the blame to Tigres. And I agree with all of that. I do not agree specifically with the league or the clubs punishing the fans. I think these are just incidents. There needs to be some type of movements, announcements. Security needs to be in place in the stadium specifically. around the stadium, of course, um, police should be present, especially when these groups are getting together, even on the way. There should be awareness all the way around. Um, but when it's that far away from the stadium, that's not the club's fault. The fans are just passionate, and this has happened in other places. This isn't like a single problem in Mexico. It's a problem all over, even with uh, other sports, even. But one thing that was interesting was some uh, some comments, and I tweeted about this. Listening to the Mexican soccer show, Tom Marshall, of course, lives in Mexico, and Cesar made some interesting comments. He lives in San Diego, but goes to Tijuana quite often. Um, the reflection of society in Mexico was a comment Tom made of this type of violence, um, fan violence, but horrific type of violence, where you're pretty much causing the near death of an individual and then not expecting to be caught or realizing that you might get away with it. There is, of course, societies and people of all types. There are very well-behaved people in Mexico, and there are very scummy people like these people in Mexico. There are people that get caught. There are people that do not, just like in any country. There is a violence problem in Mexico. There is a violence problem in the United States. I would say in Mexico it's a little worse. Uh, there is no need for me as a Mexican fan, Mexican soccer fan, to defend Mexico, to defend Liga MX. My idea or my thoughts are if Mexico has violence, then they have violence. If Mexico has people that are warm and friendly and that have awesome tacos, then that's what I will say. Um, but I think there's definitely both. Society is not a violent society in Mexico. There are many people who enjoy life, who have nice families, who take their kids to stadiums to watch soccer games, who have no issues. There's tweets of American Chivas fans shown hugging each other and saying, "While you Monterrey fans fight and kill each other, us Chivas and Americanistas get along just fine." That is false. They fight just as much as anyone else. Pumas, America fight just as much as anyone else. There is no we're so innocent over here. Look at what we do. Well, don't be surprised if this weekend during the Clásico Nacional there are fights between America and Chivas. Even just recently, Monterrey and Chivas, I think I talked about it last week. There were fights. Um, so I don't have no, I have no, my thoughts and my ideas that I express on Twitter or any place are not ones of uh, defending Mexico or Mexico is a nice place and nothing ever bad happens there. That is incorrect. Bad things happen to a lot of people everywhere. And you might even say in Mexico, it's a lot more prone to happen. You're a lot more prone to getting asked for money to buy the police sodas and, getting um, asked for money from policemen when you get pulled over just so they won't give you a ticket. They'll take you to an ATM even. Have you ever heard of that in the United States? Sure, in Mexico, there's all kinds of stuff. But also in Mexico, you will find friendly and warm people. You will find and be able to hang out with cool people. You will find great food. You will find a great culture, great traditions. So there's many great things about Mexico, and there's also many bad things just like this about Mexico, and that's the same with any country. So I don't defend Mexico. Uh, I call Mexico out on their bad things. I call them out on their great things, which there's a lot of, and um, that's the way it is. So Monterrey, horrific things. Not very happy scene on Sunday. So after that, of course, we have. Let's look at what happened actually in the Jornada 10 calendario. So uh, Pumas are staying up there. They got a tie. America was able to beat lowly Puebla. Toluca beat Necaxa. Leon lost to Lobos WAP. Cruz Azul continues dominating. Of course, they had an easy chance against Atlas. And, that team with 0 goals again. Tijuana beat Pachuca. Chivas tied Querétaro at home. Santos tied Veracruz. And, of course, Tigres tied Monterrey. So right now the league, let's see, let's go to the table. So right now we have Cruz Azul, of course, up top with 23 points, 3 ahead of America, who was able to win. So they're at 20, Toluca 19, Pumas in 4th place. Surprisingly, they're continuing to keep themselves a little bit up there with 18 points. And then we have them tied with Santos 18, Monterrey 17, Tigres 15 at 7th place, and then Querétaro at 8th place. And that's the Liguilla right there. Then we have Tijuana and Querétaro tied at 15, actually with Tigres as well, all at 15. Chivas at 14. So Chivas played Pumas in CopaMX. And to look at the difference between those two teams, we have Chivas at 14 and Pumas at 18. So there's 4 points difference between 4th place and 10th place Chivas. So that's something to realize when I had a discussion with Stragoat when we were talking about general table and is it even valid right now, or do we really want to wait until the end of the season? There's an argument to be had about the end of the season. Wait until the end of the season happens. Anything can happen. Chivas could end up, up in the 4th, 3rd place even. You never know. Or they could be down below. But that's where they're at right now. 11th is Morelia with 13, and then 12th Puebla tied at 13. Pachuca 12 points. Necaxa at 14th place with 11 points. Leon 15th with 10. And then we have the lowly bottom 3, Veracruz with 8 points, Lobos WAP 7, and Atlas. Guess how many points they have? 2. And has scored 1 goal all season. So Atlas is doing very bad. So let's go to let's talk some little bit of CopaMX drama that went on. Let me get to my tweets. It's always good to check out the Twitters. So of course, the big drama for the CopaMX was on Tuesday night. Guess who got eliminated from CopaMX? We have, híjoles, octavos de final, América. Okay, first of all, Necaxa. León beats Necaxa. Pachuca beats Tapachula. And Chaco showing his age, missing a penalty. Tijuana loses to Cruz Azul. So Cruz Azul doing well in both tournaments. America goes up against FC Juarez, ends up tying 2-2, and then losing to penalties 8-9. So an extended penalty period going back and forth, and then Juarez was able to get the win. Now there's been some criticism here with Piojo, of course, making a comment about it. One of the youngsters who missed the penalty kick, saying he shouldn't have let him in. He shouldn't have let him take the penalty kick. He should have relied on a more experienced player. I don't, and a lot of people saying that's not what you say in public. You do not throw your youngster under the bus. I can sort of see that argument, but I don't fully agree. I don't think he wasn't stating. I don't think I think he was stating the obvious. Sure, it doesn't sound nice. It doesn't sound like he's praising the young kid, but we all know if you want to secure a successful result, you're going to want the more experienced player taking the penalty kick or being on the field during the gameplay. So saying that the coach was saying that you were at as a coach for putting this guy in who's young and inexperienced to take this penalty kick in a high pressure game. It's not pleasing to the guy. It might lower his self-esteem, but hopefully he is strong enough to get through this type of insult, if you want to call it, or being thrown under the bus, if you want to call that. Um, I don't see too much of an issue that there's this whole participation trophy type of thing where people's feelings get hurt, and we're supposed to treat, the guy with kid gloves. I don't necessarily agree with that. So that was the big drama with Tuca, and they lose. The other issue with the America uh, getting eliminated of Copa MX is that maybe Copa MX isn't the big tournament that's really important that Club America needs to be involved in, or needs to put their forth their best effort with their top players. The priority here is Liga MX. Copa MX, okay, if we can do that, and if we have the the um, depth necessary to play two tournaments, then go ahead and do so. Maybe they underestimated FC Juarez. FC Juarez was out there playing for their lives. They want to prove themselves. They're a young team going against the big America. So, of course, they're going to play their best, their hardest. This is a priority for them. America's priority is the league. So they go in maybe with not their best lineup, not their best effort, and they end up paying the price against the second division FC Juarez team. So, tough loss. I would call it a failure, but I wouldn't call it the biggest scandal and that America is in a crisis. America is still up there on the league table. They're in second place. And I was arguing, and on Twitter, there seems to be a lot of Chiva hermanos, more so than America, or they're more vocal. My Chiva hermanos friends, saludos to all those guys. Rigo, Stray Goat, let's see, Don Ticajon, who replied to one of my tweets with a cricket chirping. Interesting. And the reason he did this, I assume, is because guess what? My tweet didn't get 3,000 likes and 2 million retweets. Hercules Gomez said, si cuando gana Chivas una copita no importa, que tanto importa cuando a Club América lo elimina un club de ascenso en una copita. So basically, Chivas wins a little cup, like in CopaMuyX, but it doesn't matter. The Americanistas say it don't matter. But when Club America loses to a second division team in this little cup, does that supposed to matter? And his logic doesn't really make sense. It shouldn't matter, because if Chivas wins the cup, it doesn't really matter, or it matters to a little degree. If Club America loses the cup, it doesn't really matter either, because the cup doesn't matter. So either win or lose, it's no big deal. Club America, my response was correct, but since it's a meaningless cup, wouldn't little effort be put forward to trying to win it? Maybe by using youth or second stringers. On the other hand, when a team gives up on a big tournament and goes full force on the little cup, then what? So when Chivas were winning their cup, their CopaMX championships, one of the times at least, they gave up completely on the league because they weren't they weren't even going to qualify. So all their eggs were in the basket of the littler Copa MX. I then continued saying, then winning the Copita a few times because they don't qualify for the big cup, they consider the Copita wins Copa MX Campeonissimo. So they are the awesomest. They win a couple of Copa MX and they are just on a roll, winning titles, but yet not qualifying for the big league title. Then as a result of such Copa wins, their coach is considered to be the true greatest of all time and worthy of coaching the Mexican national team. So Almeida, of course, just rushed up there. He didn't, you know, he won one Liga MX championship, which was great, but the consistency wasn't there. The the losses in Guadalajara, the home record, um, there were great moments, but there was a lot of other moments that weren't so great. So I made this comment, and our fellow Chiva hermano, Don Picar Football, of course, responded with the crickets. It's a likes, like you don't get very many likes type of insult. But hello to him. Also hello to Jaime Osorio. We conversed. He seems like a sensible guy. I don't know who he's a fan of, but um, the stray goat, of course, always brings some good fun to the game. Um, he says you realize there's no UCL invitation coming anytime to the Club America. You're welcome to believe they're too important for an official cup, but like it or not, this weak region is all they got, so they basically should face criticism for their indifference. Yep, I agree. They should be. This loss is a failure. It's not a huge failure. There's levels for all thing. I need Vélez. It's not a huge failure because the cup wasn't given importance, but it is a failure to lose to a second division team, even though it's in a lesser cup. Now the whole little dig of the UCL Champions League invitation for America. Yeah, no one is saying America can compete with the UEFA teams. They wouldn't even get an invitation. I replied just sort of condescendingly, and our friends soccer nerds came and said that I didn't get the joke, which of course I did. Um, our friend Regal Michelada God said again, this isn't about popularity. This is about downplaying. America not making the semis should be looked as a failure. People and media downplaying this is why teams don't take it serious because of the stakes. Uh, People don't take it serious because it's not a big cup. And failure, yes, it is a failure, just like I said, but not a big scandal. And that's what I when I retweeted what Mauricio Pedrosa from Raza Deportivo said. He said it's not a big scandal. Um, so we went back and forth a little bit, and we pretty much come to the same idea. There's a little bit of disagreement there, but I think even in Europe, Rigo brings up a good point. Let's go through this thread, I guess. Rigo says it's not a mentality issue. In Europe, the big clubs are expected to win cups, not just the league. In Mexico, they try and downplay the cup when one of the big clubs gets eliminated. That doesn't really apply. I think Europe is different because Europe has the Champions League, which is the biggest cup ever, even bigger than I think the EPL. Like if I was Manchester United and I had a choice between the Champions League Cup or EPL, I'd probably take the Champions League because you're being the best teams in Europe, not just the best teams in England, or not just the best teams in La Liga with the Spanish teams. In CCL, that's not the case because we're in a weaker region. Winning the CCL might be easier than, and I can, not a diss, but I can say this in the case with Chivas, might be easier to win a CCL, which Chivas did, than to win the Liga MX, which Chivas didn't. So Rigo continues. He wasn't talking about UCL. He was talking about Copa del Rey, FA Cup, and all the domestic cups. Big teams go out there and to win them. Yes, America went out to win as well. But my question is, who wins those? Copa del Rey. That's not a good example because that league, Spanish league, is a two-team league. Barcelona, Real Madrid win most of those. There are Atletico. There's a win there, and then even I think I forget what the other team was a rare win for some other team. I forget who it was. But the FA Cup, let's look at that one. Not the top EPL winner wins FA Cup as well. FA Cup has a mix. Wigan won one. So, and Wigan is currently in in the championship with the second division. So, so we have a second division team winning the FA Cup, when has a second division team won CopaMX? So that argument just sort of backfiring. But Rigo says that's not really the point. The point, what I was saying, was that the big team places importance on those tournaments. Man U just lost in that cup. It was a big deal because they're one of the big teams. In Mexico, you'll try and downplay the cup. I don't know how big a deal it was really for Manchester United. They should win those games, but you don't hear it all over the news. Uh, you know, I think just as much as America losing, you hear that as a failure to a certain degree. There is some talk about like why the cup is not really big. Why isn't it popular? I think this is popular because second division is in it. It's not the priority. It's not um, the huge teams. It's the same reason why all the Mexican teams want, or the Mexican players want to go to Europe, because they want to play with the best. They want to go. They don't want to go down and play against second division players, second division teams. They want to play against the best, and when they win against the best, that's what matters. When you go to the World Cup, that's what matters. When you win first place in CONCACAF, that's great. You're happy, but you're not as happy as you would be if you won the World Cup or if you won Libertadores. So there's my favorite phrase. There hay niveles in all these things. Um, so that was one conversation. Mm. So fun stuff in CopaMX. Let's get to yesterday's CopaMX action. Miércoles, Tigres wins. They come out and beat Puebla, and Querétaro beats Dorados. But the game that I was looking at, very interested in, was Pumas, and we're going to go and sort of talk about the same mentality of big cup, big win versus lesser win. In this case, Chivas plays Pumas at home in Guadalajara, and Pumas has not beat Chivas in Guadalajara for 30 some whatever years it was. It's a long streak that Pumas has not gone to Guadalajara and won a game. So what does Pumas do? They go over there, they get a goal, they get a goal against, tied 1-1. Then Pumas gets an absolute golazo from a young 19-year-old Canterano, Figueroa, and they're up 2-1, and they take that through the half and continue on the second half. I would say in a dangerous situation. Chivas was controlling, Chivas was attacking. Pumas would do a little bit of countering, hold the ball a little bit, but not nearly as much. And there was definitely a fear of Chivas is going to get one back. They're going to tie this game up 2-2. But Pumas were hanging tough. Chivas didn't come up with a big goal, and Pumas were protecting the goal. There was an issue with an offsides goal by Pulido. There was a mess up error by um, the Pumas goalkeeper, who nearly gave up a goal on the line and barely got it out. So a lot of people say it should have been counted, and that would have definitely affected the game and had it tied 2-2. But Pumas comes and scores a third goal, which was an auto goal from young Benjamin Galindo Jr. Junior screwed up again. I think he messed up in a game previously. He's a young kid, defensive area, and he scored an auto goal. It was a pretty nice goal, actually, but ended up going against Chivas, and that sealed the loss for Chivas 3-1. So, analyzing this game, I said earlier that Pumas had not beat Chivas, but does this win actually, count and matter to a huge extent? Like you would think, okay, Pumas finally beat the streak. They finally have redeemed themselves in Guadalajara. Going back to what we just talked about, I would say maybe they didn't. Maybe they since it is a lesser cup, maybe this win doesn't matter as much, and I would agree. Martin del Palacio said, mil veces, let me translate, he said 1,000 times I've said the CopaMuyX is the chocolate. It's, it's a tournament that people play second stringers that is only important to those who win it. So he's not going to consider Pumas being this curse against Chivas. He says when we beat them in the league, then he will consider it mission accomplished. So this win that Pumas got against Chivas doesn't count, in other words. And I am a Pumas fan. John is a Pumas fan. We might get to see what he has to say about it, but I would agree with that. I would say that this win against Pumas isn't as sweet as it should be. It was great. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't as sweet as it could have been if they were playing in the league. When it really matters, when it's the big tournament for these teams, Pumas beating Chivas in Guadalajara in the Liga MX is where this should happen and where Pumas fans should be truly happy to see. And so if Chivas fans want to say, yeah, this doesn't even matter, this isn't important, or what's worse, losing to a second division team or losing to Chivas, Straygut, I think, mentioned this, it's pretty much the same thing, or that, considering, and this is where we go to looking at the table now versus looking at it at the end of the season. Straygut said, it's pretty much the same being eliminated by a second division team as being eliminated by Pumas. Pretty much throwing Pumas at the level or at the rating of a second division team. My response to that was, well, Pumas is 4th place in the league table and Chivas is 10th. So if Pumas is a second division team, how are they ahead of Chivas in the league table? By 4 points. If Pumas is second division, then what is Chivas? Of course, Stray Goat said this isn't the end of the season. Let's talk the table at the end of the season. Okay, what if the season ends and Pumas is still ahead of Chivas? Then what? So it doesn't really matter here. It's ridiculous. Pumas has earned over and over again to be in the top division. The other case for FC Juarez, they have not yet earned that right. And haven't been in the top division. So there's really no comparison. It's failures for both teams, America and Chivas. I would say a little bit more of a failure for America. The Chivas loss, if you're a betting person, it wouldn't be too unexpected. Chivas doesn't do necessarily very well at home, and against Pumas, who's been a good team, who has good players, it's not surprising that they would finally get their win. I think it's been a harder win to try to get for Pumas versus America than this one. So not too surprising. So that was the main deal for CopaMX. So of course we have Monterrey still to play Zacatepec, and that will happen on 2nd of October. Octavos, and then for CopaMX cuartos de final, we have Pachuca versus Tigres set to go. Cruz Azul and Juarez. The Cruz Azul Juarez match should be interesting. Juarez is going to go up against the top team in Liga MX, Cruz Azul, then León and Pumas. That should be fun. Querétaro will see who they play out the winner of Monterrey and who did I just say they were playing? Zacatepec. So CopaMX action. So let's talk a little bit about what do we got here? Tuca. Tuca has been discarded as the national team coach for Mexico, and we have heard reports of multiple, I think 15 or so players, or not players, coaches being interviewed and being talked to over the past however many months to be interviewed and talked to about taking on the national team. Recently, we've heard of Tata Martino, sorry, from Atlanta United. Now, initially, you would think, okay, Atlanta United, that's MLS, that's less, that's beneath us. We don't necessarily want an MLS coach, even though he's Argentinian, to come and take over Mexico. So there's still a lot of skepticism and stuff to hear about what's going on there. So I think I actually called Tuca. So the whole thing with Tuca was that this guy went to coach the national team for these two matches. He was loyal. He expressed his loyalty to Tigres. When he left and came back to Tigres, the president of Tigres said the FMF didn't even call them or contact them about Tuca staying on for the national team, and not even to say, thank you for loaning him out. I sense this sort of like rift between the Tigres management and the FMF, so I thought, and I think I mentioned it on the podcast a few times a few weeks back, I don't think Tigres is going to let him go. Tigres wants Tuca, they value him, and I don't think they're going to let him go to coach the national team and then be left, out in the cold with, having to find someone else. So eventually this came to pass, and Tuca, it has come out that Tuca is going to stay, that they want him to continue with Tigres, and that's that. So, Tuca out, and we are ready for another week of Liga MX. Jornada 11. So this Friday, starting with Veracruz and León. Two teams, lower level teams. León struggling a bit. They got a new coach, but we should see how that continues with León. I expect León should be able to get a win away. Atlas and Toluca. Atlas playing at home. Maybe Atlas could come up and try to surprise somebody getting a win against Toluca. It's going to be tough, but we're just waiting for that one breakthrough. The first win. Maybe we should take bets or something on the first win of when will the first win of Atlas come, or will it come? On Saturday, we have the first game at Querétaro Tigres. That's going to be in Querétaro. I should have been in Querétaro. That would have been a good game to watch. Then after that is Pachuca and Cruz Azul. That should be interesting, and I'll always keep your eye out for Cruz Azul to see if they can continue with their good wins and their good results they're getting. We have Monterrey after that against Tijuana. Rayados have been struggling. They lost to Chivas. They had all this scandalous stuff going on in the Clásico Regio, and they ended up tying Tigres, so now they go against Tijuana to try to redeem themselves, try to get back on track a little bit. Then we have finalizing on Saturday night, Necaxa and Santos. On Sunday, Pumas Puebla. Pumas has an opportunity to go and get a good game against Puebla, and these are 3 points that they should get to keep themselves on the top of the table going into the end of this season. Lobos and Morelia, and then finally on Sunday we have Clásico Nacional, Super Clásico, America and Chivas. And I would like to recommend you guys, if you haven't already, check out the Eagle Eye podcast with Ivan and all those dudes. They've been ramping up a lot, I've noticed, this week for their preview and their talk on the Super Clásico that's coming up on this Sunday. So Piojo has been a lot in the news for his controversial remarks. Chivas is always in the news, sort of with their mediocre play as of late. America, they've been getting good results, but there's some struggles there as well. So this is going to always be an intense match. One thing I saw over at the Eagle Eye is one of their fans said that these are always an exciting games. They're always a lot of intensity, And I think sometimes that intensity, sometimes that desire to win ends up being, to a not so exciting game, a more conservative type of game, a cautious game, because they do not want to lose. It's more like I don't want to lose to my rival instead of I'm going to go out and beat my rival. We'll also watch out for any type of fan incidents, fan violence that might be going on between these two clubs. But it should be a good match to watch and to keep our eyes on and check out on a Sunday evening. So, um, yeah, that's the action that's going down. So let me check out the any new stuff going on in the chat or in the Twitters. I guess we can read some tweets. Let me see if I have any interesting things going on as far as discussion threads. I think Joel was talking about some stuff. Um, uh, Definitely brave of Cardoso to leave Chofis and Pulido on the bench. That was from Tom Marshall. Joel responds, both of those players are very inconsistent. To which Rigo gets triggered, and Joel then says, Puli never managed to break into Olympiacos' first team. His goal scoring in league play is way lower than expected, and Chofis, at this stage in his career, should not be seen as a promise, but as a reality. So those are some good points. Chofis isn't the youngest guy around. Pulido had his chance in Europe, didn't break out, returned to Chivas as this former European player. So you would think, oh, this dude is going to light it up. Not so much the case as we are seeing. Chofis has great skill, great spurts of awesomeness, but isn't really consistent, as Joel says. Rigo says he is a reality. Immediately after coming on, he created a chance that will be stopped. So there are some skills. There are some skills there. Blowing up and scoring instead of getting stopped by Volpi. That's the difference between a good player and a great player. I replied saying, reality being a Liga MX star at age 24. Some may still see promise of a European contract for trophies, sort of like fans wanting Linus to head to Europe ASAP as a future promise at age 18. So age 24 and 18 is a little bit different. Chofis, however, responded, Chofis was expected to dominate the league as he has the talent to do so, but there's nowhere near that. Instead, he was relegated to a few flashes of brilliance, topped off with the off-the-field controversy. I'm beginning to think Chivas number 10 jersey is cursed. So just some good points. I mean, I think there's, and this is something that our podcast I think highlights a lot, is I especially don't get into fanboying on my team. I do not say my team is great, my team is awesome, my players in Pumas are the best, or do all this stuff. And I do not show bias. So I will call Pumas mediocre. I will call Pumas players not very good. Barrera isn't the promising guy that you want to see on your team. He's an older dude. The Pumas goalkeeper is, totally choked in some instances. So there are some things that you can definitely insult, but to just think that just because it's your team, you're going to go all out for your players, defend them. Going back to Cesar's comment about defending Mexico. Yes, I'm Mexican American. Yes, I love Mexico and all the good things about it. But I will tell you, and I will have no problem telling you, that Mexico has very bad X or Y. I have no problem in not defending Mexico. You can defend certain things, but you can also call out things even about your own country or your own team or your own whatever. You can't have that bias or that loyalty that just blinds everything about what you're trying to talk about. just because it's your team or just because it's your country or just because it's uh, your friends or you're trying to be loyal. So uh, that's my statements on that. Uh, I guess I could comment on this thing. I saw that Carlos Vela was getting the King James Lakers jersey. Uh, I actually tweeted and asked Perndog Fernando, our fellow friend, about what he thought, and he, replied something that I won't repeat. But he, it's a good thing to discuss. Uh, a lot of people criticized Carlos Vela for leaving Europe and going to MLS just because he wanted to go and enjoy Hollywood, enjoy LA, enjoy the nice lifestyle, enjoy the celebrities, enjoy going to Dodgers games and Lakers games, and he likes basketball more than soccer and all this stuff, and criticized him. And I say, oh, you have your right, and you are right to criticize him. Um, is he really even a Lakers fan? I think he enjoyed quite a bit and had the Miami Heat jersey not too many years ago. He's more of a fan of uh, the whole I guess the sport, but more of the whole environment of this is the coolest, going to an NBA game or going to be in LA um, and all of that. So that's great. He's having fun. He's got a smile on his face, and that is what's important for him, and that's fine. We can criticize him, and we can be right in our criticism, but it's his career, it's his choice, uh, and if he wants to do that, then that's fine. And he doesn't have to please fans. He has no obligation to do any of that. So I have no problem with. I have respect for that. I don't agree with it. I wish he would have stayed in Europe. I wish he would have done a lot of things different in his career to better Mexico, to better Liga MX, and to take the national team on a higher level. I think the golden generation of him and Giovanni Dos Santos. Um, I don't know about failed, but I would say did not live up to expectations. And I realize winning a young under 17 does not mean you're going to win the senior national team World Cup. But there was some desire, and this was called the golden generation for a reason. And it didn't end up turning out that way. So blame it on Bella? Sure, we can do that. But accept that he's happy and he doesn't have to do whatever us fans want him to do. That's great also. He is living the life. He is living in LA. He has plenty of cash, plenty of money. Now he's got fame. Now he's throwing out the first pitch at the Dodgers game. Now he's attending and getting jerseys from LeBron James and from the Lakers and going to Lakers games. Who wouldn't want that life? What are you gonna do? Live in Guadalajara? Maybe go to the Chivas game and see how they lose the Pumas at home? Or what else are you gonna do? Go to Acapulco? No, I'll let you be in LA. You're gonna be with the stars. You're gonna be with all the baseball teams, major leagues, the NBA, the best teams in the world. No brainer. So going through, I guess, the Twitter feeds. Not too much talk now that CopaMuyX and all this stuff is done with. I've got my Twitter feed infected, so sort of sparse. Yeah, so I guess we were gonna go a little late to see if the fellows were gonna join, but I don't think they are. I will have a week match of the week for this jornada coming up. Apparently Picante is on right now, and they say el reto de Guadalajara es calificar a Liguilla. El reto de América es ser campeón. That is from David Faitelson. So this is actually a good tweet to talk about a little bit. The challenge for Guadalajara is just to qualify. They're not in qualifying range. They are currently in, what did I say, 10th place? They are in 10th place. They are not qualifying for Liga as we speak. But America, of course, is in second place. So Faitelson says that Guadalajara, their goal is to qualify. America's goal is to be champion. So this is two different levels. America is in the prime position. They are at the top of the table. They, it could end up very well that they don't go deep into Liga and Chivas does. You never know with this league. But at the current moment, he has a point. I think he's trying to instigate a little bit with the Chivas fans, and he could end up being totally wrong, just like I said. But that is a good point. Of course, America needs to qualify as well. They can't be thinking two steps ahead when they haven't even finalized the season. Chivas, they have work to do. So there is some reason to his statement, and then there is some problems as well. So great stuff. Every day there's always something new, always a new take, and I enjoy it. I enjoy discussing. I don't get upset with people dissing Pumas or dissing Mexico for violence or whatever, because I know the truth. I know there is bad stuff in Mexico. There's good stuff in Mexico. I wouldn't mind living in Mexico, but I live here. So one thing I will tell you though about Mexico, I was in San Luis Potosi one time. We were walking back to our apartment and going from street to street, just crossing streets as we were going along. We come to this one street and are about to cross it. This is in a residential neighborhood. And all of a sudden, I look down the road and there's just rocks being hurled in our direction, just being hurled down the road. And on the other side was like a gang of dudes on one side. And then on the far end of the street was another gang of dudes. And they were just hurling rocks at each other. So and we were like caught in the middle. So we quickly crossed the street to get out of the way of all these rocks that were just coming down. And then apparently it was like some type of gang fight that they were, throwing rocks at each other. And all I just remember was just rocks just flying up in the air like bombs. And we got out of there quick. But something I have never seen in the U.S., of course. The U.S., you can find other types of stuff. We won't get into all of that, but there's bad stuff everywhere. I will also say going to Mexico, walking down the street, I have never been able to walk down the street and exchange good mornings or good afternoons on such a frequent and friendly basis as I have in Mexico compared to the United States. United States people, a lot of Americans are a little bit cold or reserved, keep to themselves, whereas a lot of people in Mexico are very willing to say good morning and be polite and say hello to each other as complete strangers and open up to each other and say how are you doing and have discussions. So great. Love the country of Mexico. Love all the good things about it. But of course, there's bad things as well. Doesn't stop me from going down there or visiting on as much as I can. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for this episode 156. Come check us out on Twitter. We also have a newly created Instagram page, CantinaMX_pod, same as our Twitter. We also have our Facebook out there. Our man Joel is on vacation in Spain. Our other guys are a little bit busy coaching youth players and doing stuff. So we will hopefully have those guys back on later next week and continue to join us on Thursday nights. And hopefully after Joel gets back, we will discuss talking more during the week, in the morning time or during the day. So thanks for joining, and I'll talk to you guys later.